And today's gratuitous food shot is Shiojashumen. Hi guys, welcome. Today I'm going to talk about buying my house here in Eastern Tokyo. Actually, this is a video I've been meaning to make for a long time, basically since I went ahead and bought this place, but well, I always thought it would be best to wait until I was about to start proper renovations, and then, well, one thing led to another and I just kept putting it off over and over again until, well, also the time I moved in here was the time I'd stopped making YouTube videos, so things just didn't line up. Until today. I'm now pretty sure renovations can start within the next few weeks or months, so I thought I'd make a start on a video series about buying and renovating this fairly large, relatively speaking, 7-room house in Tokyo. I also post videos about travel and life in Japan on this channel, and I try to kind of emphasize the historical context of everywhere I go. So if that sounds like it might pique your interest, please do stick around. And alright, with that said, let's talk about my home here in Eastern Tokyo. This big old gorgeous girl is tucked away at the end of a cul-de-sac, about 6 minutes walk from the nearest station. She has a cute little garden in the front here, which some of you may have already seen in my video about these big old lanterns. There's also another smaller garden in the back, which is currently very overgrown. But I'll make a video about the garden and what I've done with it another day. It's true that this house is not highly traditional or striking from the outside, and certainly I do get jealous of the big beautiful traditional houses with ornate roofs you see on channels like Tokyo Llamas. His series about restoring a minka in the countryside is fantastic, and I can't recommend it highly enough. But this house is actually older than his minka, and inside it's pretty traditional. Shall we take a look? Okay, let's start here. The west side of the house is 2 full-length rooms divided only by sliding doors. When they're open, which they always are unless I want to use the air conditioning, there's actually a nice feeling of space here. Both rooms have tatami floors, and I keep this one as a traditional Japanese room. There's a lot to talk about in each room, like the big old kamidana up there. But for now I'll keep things brief and talk more about rooms as I renovate them. The living room I've done in more of a Western style, despite the tatami, a sofa, desk, and yeah, several aquatic pets. It's looking a little bit green in there, you guys. I'll clean you up soon. And yeah, when I renovate, you guys will get a nice new big tank. Does that sound good? Do it! The weight of the water shows that these floors are pretty strong, and while yes, I'm squashing these old tatami, you know, I intend to replace them anyway, and actually it's pretty obvious that the previous owner did the same kind of thing with their furniture. The walls were bare when I moved in, looking something like this. So, well, I tried to cover them up to the best of my ability. This side looks pretty good, I think, even if obviously bricks and stone have nothing to do with a house like this. This is, you know, all sponge. I had the great idea of putting cheapo vinyl floor panels on these walls, and, you know, they looked great at first. You can see I also had the idea of painting things blue at one point as well. That didn't really work out. And yeah, these panels expand in summer and contract in winter, and so they soon start to either fall off or look terrible. I've been pulling them off as they come loose, which obviously looks terrible right now, but yeah, I'm treating it as, you know, preparation for renovating. So yeah, while there's a lot to do in these 2 rooms, I think there's a lot of potential for them to be a really nice space. On the other side of the house, there are 3 rooms, plus the bathroom. I mean, if you count that, there are 8 rooms in the house. Or I guess 10 if you even include the little toilets as well. There's the kitchen, which is badly in need of an update. There's the light, there we go. Though, yeah, this fridge I bought when I moved in. Nice big fridge. I painted these walls this kind of sky blue because they were a bit grubby when we moved in. Here's what they looked like when we first came to view the place. It's still all a bit messy, but yeah, that's why I want to renovate. At some point, the previous owner divided this space into two with this thin wall, and then yeah, here we have a little music room. The piano came with the house and needs some fixing up for some sticky keys. Pet frogs also live here for now. There we go, happy little fella. I'll be making pet videos as part of this process too when I upgrade each of their little homes. The bathroom I figure must have been updated at some point by the previous owner since they built the place. And while yes, it needs an update too, it was a whole lot better than most of the bathrooms I saw in houses this age. And I do enjoy having a talking bathtub. There's a little toilet here as well with walls that remind me of a sauna. And we've made it Pokemon themed because, well, why not? Unless you're in a small apartment, most Japanese homes have very compartmentalized bathrooms. But I think I'm gonna mostly go for a hotel style one when we renovate. You know, where everything's in the same space together and you've got room for a nice big bathtub. In the space under the stairs, there's also this small room I use as my study. It's also full of all my weeby stuff, and this wonderfully creepy doll that I got to commemorate when my first book got published. That cage there is empty, but the bunnies do live here. I don't really like them to be in cages, so I usually just let them out to run around and such. That's one thing I'll definitely do something about when I renovate, give them something more open. I do have a run for them outside as well, but I have to be careful because there's a stray cat that likes to visit the garden, and Abel the big bunny doesn't like him at all. Do you, Abel? You don't like the big cat, do you? No, you don't. So all the rooms except the piano room are joined by this long, thin corridor, the full length of the house. At the Genkan, the traditional entrance to the house, my sugar gliders live on top of the shoe cupboard. Hello. What silly little squeakers. Again, they're in cages for now, and I'm not a huge fan, but I'll get them nicer looking little houses when I renovate. When I first moved in, the corridor climaxed with what should surely be the focal point of any house, really. A big sink and vanity. Wow! I put this cupboard door here to just hide it with these IKEA mirrors to, jazz it up a little bit. It's actually this weird little protuberance that sticks out from the back of the house. I'm hoping to actually put a door in there so that I can more easily access the back garden. Upstairs, past this enormous picture that I got from somebody who didn't have space to hang it up, but which reminds me of home, there are 2 bedrooms. There's a lot of work to be done in these rooms to tidy them up, but yeah, pretty simple. There's a double bed in this one, and then 2 singles here in this guest room that can be put together for couples or separated out if need be. It's a huge mess because I was doing my solar panel planning in here, and if there are ever kids in our future, this will likely be their room. There's also a small toilet on the landing, which has all of the buttons that you might ever want for squirting you every which way you please. Oh yeah, and there's a balcony as well, which can be accessed from both bedrooms, and which I really should use more. It's got my ladder on it right now. And that's the tour. Yeah, I know that by Western standards, this is not a big house. I grew up in the English countryside in a house that had, 11 rooms? Each of which is like double the size of the ones here. If this were the American suburbs, this house would probably be considered, cute, to put it euphemistically. But for Tokyo and for my budget, well, this is actually pretty mammoth. Sometimes I remember that, most Tokyoites in their 20s and 30s are living their entire lives in, a 20 square meter apartment. Must have been really difficult during this pandemic especially. And that 20 square meters is including the bathroom and the kitchen. I know because that's how I lived for 2 years in Shinjuku. I'm lucky to have a home this size. And there's still a lot to do to make it my ideal place to live, but, well, yeah, I've got some big plans. If you're thinking, it doesn't look all that great right now. Well, no, it doesn't. That's why I'm going to renovate it and hopefully make it look a bit better. And you're probably wondering by now, why did I decide to buy here at all? Good question. So I moved to Japan in 2015. Now, I am a bit of an anime and video game loving weeb, and I did come here several times as a tourist, absolutely loving it every time. But moving here wasn't really my dream or anything. Really, the simple version of a long story is that I was following my partner, who had a much stronger desire to relocate. For my first 2 years, I lived in this tiny rental apartment in Shinjuku. Way back in the depths of the channel, you can see some videos of back when I was a wide-eyed neophyte having a blast with a new life. Before you say it, yes, I've put on some weight since then. Thank you for noticing. So after 2 years in Tokyo, it had kind of become part of who I am. You know, I miss plenty of things about England, but if I moved back, I'd miss a lot about Japan. The classic expat dilemma. The food, the safety, the music scene, the friends I've made, and the squirty toilets. I'm not afraid to admit that. So my long-term plan has always been to get into a situation where I can spend 6 months here and 6 months in England each year, which would mean I'd only need a tourist visa to come to Japan, and I wouldn't have to pay residence taxes or pension or any of the other things that you have to pay to live in Japan. And perhaps that'll still be what I do at some point, but I'm earning more here pro rata than I would be at home, even after getting my doctorate. On a tourist visa, I wouldn't be able to work here, of course. And with my partner's current career situation, me not being here half the year would often mean nobody would be around to look after the pets, or look after the garden, or pay the bills. So I guess generally I'm pretty settled now. And after being here for 5 years, nearly 6 now, it makes sense to stay at least until I can get permanent residency, which is at the 10-year mark. I mean, I could probably work to get residency sooner with the HSP visa, but there's a few hoops to jump through that are a little bit complicated right now. So if it's not clear from that story, unlike the great majority of people who you see buying houses or doing renovations here in Japan, I am not married to a Japanese person, nor am I ever likely to be. I'm here purely on a working visa, and that brings with it some complications that other people who are here as spouses don't have to deal with, as well as meaning that, I don't have a pre-existing network on my spouse's side who could have helped me through the process or offered support. But there's absolutely nothing legally to stop a foreigner buying property in Japan. And yet plenty do so for investment purposes. Though the market is a very idiosyncratic one here, which is, in investment terms, much more based on cash flow than on capital gains. But it is tricky to the point of almost being utterly impossible for a foreigner like me to get a mortgage here, a loan to buy the house. Which is understandable, it'd be too easy to just take the cash and run off back home without ever needing to pay it back. So for me to buy here, well, it was going to have to be in pure, unadulterated cash money. Okay, let's leave it there for now. Next time I'll talk about the actual process of buying, the difficulties I faced, why I chose this particular house, and the experience of actually moving in. For now though, that's all, and I hope I'll see you guys again next time.